of the school committee. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting of the school committee will be conducted via hybrid participation. We will post an audio recording, audio-video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of these proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the City of Somerville website and local cable access government channels. With that, Dr. Carmona, will you please call the roll?
Yes, through the chair. Ms. Piton,
Present.
Dr. Ackman, Mr. Green,
Present.
Mr. Piton,
Here.
President Pineda-Nufel,
Here.
Mayor Ballantyne,
Present.
Ms. Barish,
Here.
Dr. Phillips,
Here.
Chair Krepchen.
Here.
We have quorum.
Great. We will start with a moment of silence and a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic from which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do not have our interpreters this evening because they are attending parent-teacher conferences. So we could not get them here tonight, and unfortunately we don't have our student reps here tonight, so that brings us to approval of minutes. I will entertain a motion. Anyone?
I move to approve the minutes for February 3rd meeting of the Rules Management Subcommittee.
No, it's just regular school committee minutes.
Oh, those minutes, sorry. February 3rd school committee minutes.
Second.
If there's no discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to public comment. We have 2 people signed up for public comment, so I will read our instructions and then call them up. Welcome and thank you to those who have signed up for public comment. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to present their material. However, the chair may limit comments to 2 minutes based on the number of individuals signed up to speak. Given that we just have 2, you will have your 3 minutes. Speakers should begin their comments by stating their name and address, or in the case of district employees, their role within the district. The chair of the meeting, after a warning, reserves the right to terminate speech which is not constitutionally protected because it constitutes true threats that are likely to provoke a violent reaction and cause a breach of the peace, or incitement to imminent lawless conduct, or which contains obscenities. Public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between the public and the committee. Members of the committee will not reply to public comment in the course of the meeting, though individual members may follow up and items from public comment may be taken up in future meetings. The school committee will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor against any member of the school community in public session. Individuals may address topics on the agenda or items within the school committee's scope of responsibility, such as the district budget, goals, and policies, or role of the superintendent. The public is encouraged to submit comments in writing for inclusion in the public record. So with that, I have Inez Santos and then Ms. Brady. Inez, the floor is yours.
Hi, good evening. It's been a little while. Thanks for having me. My name is Inez Santos. I'm a resident of 18 James Street, and I have 2 Wildcats at Winter Hill, a kindergartner and a 2nd grader. I'm coming here to talk about the out-of-school time clubs. We just got our letter from the principal that discussed what the availability of out-of-school time clubs were for our school, which led me to peek at what other schools were doing. This is a subject that I'm really interested in. I brought this to the attention of the City Council last spring, and I can tell you a little bit about how that went. But at the current session, the Winter Hill kindergartner to 5th graders are offered the option of taking Spanish on Mondays. For comparison, the Brown School, which is a school that we are, talking about maybe merging with, has the choice of kids and nutrition, Spanish, yoga, piano, guitar, chess, and something called Strong Women, Strong Girls, which is something that sounds good to me and my kids. When I talked to City Council about a year ago, the situation was similar, although the discrepancy was smaller. And I should say that I just chose the Brown, but I could have chosen a number of schools on the west side of the city. The West School has Village Music Guitar, Build Wave, Spanish, Chess Wizards, Movement Expression, Kids in Tech, and something called Girl Start, which is a STEM program. also sounds good. About a year ago, when I brought this to the attention of the city, I was told that this was going to be looked into. In the fall, we had several choices, certainly nothing like what I'm describing from the other schools, but a lot more than what we have now. It was the first time, at least since I've been involved with the district, that we had the clubs, that we heard about clubs. It was very short. It was like, school starts today, we get the email on Friday, the clubs start next week. Obviously, this is not enough to gather a lot of participation in a school that's not used to having something. So participation, according to the out-of-time school coordinators, was on the low side. I know the clubs were participated because my kids were in them. But immediately after, so it was one session where we had choices, and immediately after the spring session, the winter session, we went straight into what is currently the case, which is one club per grade. There's Spanish for K through 5 and Danger Wizards for 4 through 8. This really seems like an issue of equity that I would really like the school committee to look into. Obviously, children like mine who have parents who can afford to take them to activities, and on average, the children on the west side of our city are already having access to a lot more. So it would seem to me that if we're going to weigh things in one direction, it would be the schools that have children who have access to less. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have Ms. Brady.
Good evening. Aww. I'm gonna cry for the first time in public comment. Hi, I'm Miss Brady. I am the proud 8th grade civics teacher at the Winter Hill, and I'm joined tonight by, I think, 13 of my rock stars here to partially model another form of civic engagement, and also to share how we're building off our school's proud civic tradition. In the fall, we dreamed up a podcast, and then we successfully applied for a $1,000 grant through the Somerville Foundation. And Municipality, the podcast, where we spill our tea on life in our municipality, has launched about a month ago. Our 4th episode came out today. The next 2 are coming out later this week. So far, we've hosted a city councilor and a state rep as podcast guests, and it's only March, so we're dreaming big here. My students are now moving towards asking 19 different community research questions around how do we make the city more affordable? Do 8th graders have enough mental health supports? I'm forgetting some of y'all's questions right now. Anyone want to call it out? It's fine. Cost of living. Housing costs, lunch food, how lunch is made, the cafeteria, all of that. So if you don't already follow us on Instagram, WHCIS 8th grade. We're also on Spotify, so it's Municipality-TEA. It's a joke. And in conclusion, we are also now accepting comments, feedbacks, and ideas on what we should talk about on the podcast. So you are allowed to email me at my K-12, or on our Instagram, you can send us a message or leave us a comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming. That concludes public comment, so now brings us to the report of the superintendent. Dr. Carmona.
Great. Through the chair. So good evening, everyone, and great to see student faces here. That's always a way to ground our work when our students are around. So tonight I'm looking forward to hearing from our school leaders about the progress we're making towards our strategic priorities. We'll hear from Principal Glenda Soto from the Argenciano School and Principal Steve Marshall from the Kennedy School on their school improvement plans. With budget season now in full swing, the community feedback provided by school improvement councils is more important than ever. Our commitment to student, family, staff, and community engagement is a core value that is central to everything we do as a district, from our school improvement plans to our collaborative budget process. I'm grateful to work in a district that truly supports all of our students and families. I'd like to acknowledge the ongoing dedication of Sam Elligin, our Director of Data and Accountability, Dr. Jessica Boston Davis, and her outstanding school principals, and our outstanding school principals for their leadership and commitment to this work. Next, I want to take a moment to congratulate our Somerville High School robotics team. Over the last 2 weekends, our robotics team came in 8th in the Granite State competition and 2nd in the Greater Boston competition. The Somerville High School Highlanders robotics team is currently the #1 team in New England. Woo! So we are cheering them on as they strive to go all the way to the world competition. So congratulations to our Highlanders robotics team. Also a big thank you for the hard work and dedication of Coach Laura Peters, Innovation Specialist Jason Burns, and the CTE educators who supported them, including Silva Lebron. And I also would like to thank the extraordinary group of robotics teams, mentors, and volunteers in our district. Finally, I want to congratulate Somerville High School senior Sam Ryan. He designed the winning logo for the Massachusetts Association of Vocational Administrators. The winning logo for the Connect for Success Conference is actually the name of the logo. It's the one that Sam actually designed in collaboration with the CTE team. So congratulations to Sam CTE graphic communications educator Richard McElroy and for the work that they have been doing together. So Sam's logo will be used across the Connect for Success conference. He also was given a $250 prize by MAVA, which is the Massachusetts Association of Vocational Administrators. And that all happened last week, so it was a great celebration. With that, I'm gonna give the floor to our principals for the school improvement plan conversations. I'm gonna turn that to Boston Jessica Davis to do the introductions.
Thank you, Dr. Carmona, through the chair. Very thrilled to welcome the next two school communities up for their school improvement planning process. Before I do, I just want to remind everyone the framing that was provided a few meetings ago, but then also I reviewed at a very high level at our last meeting, and then just to review it again. The school improvement planning process, there are some small changes that we did to align across schools in our district this year. You'll notice that the plans are 3 years, so this is just a reminder. I went over this before, and there's a memo on this, but just as a high-level reminder, the plans are now 3 years, and all of our school communities worked around 4 headings, buckets of goals. So the first being academic excellence, the second, equity and access, the third, wellness and joy, and the fourth, family and community engagement. So with those headings that are all aligned to the strategic plan, our school communities develop the goals that work best for their schools. So with that, without further ado, I'm gonna welcome up the AFA community to come on up and introduce yourselves, and really excited to go through your school improvement plan.
Thank you so much, through the chair. Good evening, I'm Glenda Soto. I'm the proud principal of the Argenciano School, and with me is Amy Candelora, assistant principal, and we have a parent representative who's also gonna be joining us to present part of the school improvement plan. We'll try to keep it short, so we're not gonna read verbatim from the PowerPoint presentation that we have prepared for tonight. We're gonna basically summarize the slides as we go along. So, if you can pass the slide, please, next slide. Thank you so much. So our school council, the work that you see here is all of our stakeholders in our community had part in it. Our school improvement council, our instructional leadership team, and our teachers all understand and know and had part in building this plan. Our mission, we adopted the mission of Somerville Public Schools because we grounded our work in the strategic plan that the superintendent presented this year. The vision. The mission is particular to Argenciano School, and prior school councils have worked on it. And the core values, our school community came together to express how they present themselves into our schools. So the core values were done with the staff and the school council, which are empathy, community, inclusivity, perseverance, and growth. And then the community values is what our kids know and hear every day. Be safe, be kind, be responsible, and be respectful. And that's what we live by every single day at the Argenciano School. If you can pass on to the next slide. If I go too fast, please signal me. I wanted to ground tonight for us, for Argenciano School, and the pluses that we found in the accountability data from the Department of Education. This year, we made 49% moderate progress toward our targets from the Department of Education, and that is in like midway in the percentage of progress because it is a weighted formula between how we did in spring 2023 and spring 2024. What is to celebrate, that is our accountability data from spring 2024, we made 64% progress towards our goal, which was very significant. If we do the same, our percentage will be really high for next year. And then we gained a lot of points in different areas that we had not gained point in the past, so we were really excited about that. One of them being that we were able to close the chronic absenteeism gap, and we got 4 points out of 4 in that area. Our English language learners are in lowest performing group, and MCAS exceeded the targets established by DESE in the math and the ELA test, and 41% of our students are meeting or exceeding the standards in English language arts. So there's a lot to celebrate in the accountability data, and with all the changes that have happened, we're really looking forward to next year's as well. There's something that the accountability data doesn't capture, and is what you see in the halls at the Argenciano School, which is a sense of belonging, a sense of joy and pride to be in the building. So we have to celebrate that as well. Our kids are very happy to be at the school, and they feel really comfortable in our walls, and so is our staff. Next slide, please. After doing a deep dive of all the data that we had, assessment data available to us, we came to the conclusion that one area that we needed to work on was in mathematics. So our academic and excellence goal is focused on mathematics, even though the percentages and the student growth percentile are not so far away from ELA, we found that this is the area that we needed to work on. And given that we were implementing the new illustrative math curriculum, we felt it was the right time to focus on academic excellence in the subject of mathematics, not letting the other subjects, not paying attention to them, but being hyper-focused on that. So we have implemented high-quality instructional materials in math, and all schools did 3rd through 5th grade. Argenciano School piloted the 2nd grade, so all of our students in 2nd through 5th grade are now being exposed to illustrative math, and we're really looking forward to our 2nd graders being in 3rd grade next year and seeing the result of 2 years of high-quality instructional materials. This data is from MCAS specifically and comparing, and then the data below is the iReady data that shows kind of like the same story and need to focus in the mathematics subject. How are we going to do that? Well, if you can move on to the next slide, please. In our strategic action steps and outcomes, we are implementing, as I said, illustrative math in grades 2 to 5, and for this school year, and that goes along with professional development that the district is providing to the staff. And next year, we will be implementing illustrative math in grades K to 1. That goes along with professional development. We are going to enhance the material from IM because the material is not necessarily geared towards English language learners, so there is some work that needs to be done around vocabulary and language that the teachers have to work together, and our 2nd grade team is a great example of how they're doing that together to make sure that the needs of our English language learners are met through the IM materials. And one big thing that we added this year was the instruction, and this is through Jessica Boston Davis' leadership, is the personalized instructional tool that IM provides to students. So the students take the iReady test, and then the program matches them with a personalized instructional tool that looks at the foundational skills that they're missing. And our teachers have dedicated blocks of time during X block where they do 2 days of reading, 2 days of math to make sure that they are honing in on those foundational skills that they're missing. So we're looking forward in the years to come through Jessica's department, through Dr. Boston Davis' department, to expanding that to 3 to 5 so that we can offer the students the same accessibility to the interventions of IM. And we are going to measure our outcomes. We're hoping to meet the targets that are established by DESE in a 3-year plan, in the span of this plan. And DESE has those measurements already on their website, so we're basing our goals on those measurements. Ms. Candelora will present our next goal.
Next, oh, there you go. Next, we're going to look at the equity and access goal. So data from the iReady, DIBELS, and MCAS revealed significant disparities among subgroups, specifically between the white student subgroup and the Hispanic student subgroup. For instance, our iReady data shows that a higher percentage of white students are reading on or above grade level compared to their Hispanic peers. There is a similar trend appearing in DIBELS and MCAS data as well. Next slide. To address these gaps, we're implemented targeted interventions such as Lexia for literacy supports and utilizing the iReady personalized instruction tool that Glenda just talked about. We're also focusing our school-based professional development and vocabulary strategies and analyzing service delivery during our core instruction. We don't want students to be missing the core instruction. Our goal is to meet the Department of Ed's targets by ensuring every student has equitable access to grade level content. Next slide. We're committed to strengthening our school climate by using culturally responsive social emotional curriculum and school-wide restorative practices. This will aim to boost students' sense of belonging and improve overall well-being. While our families are largely positive about our efforts, staff feedback indicate that there is room for growth in how students manage their emotions. Next slide so we can talk about our action steps. The Wellness and Joy goal is centered on cultivating a safe, nurturing environment where every student can thrive academically, emotionally, and socially. To achieve this, we're going to be implementing a comprehensive approach that includes weekly second step lessons across all grade levels, targeted training in Tier 1 restorative practices, and professional development in social emotional learning. These action steps are designed to reduce conduct referrals by 10% and improve overall school climate, ensuring that the healthiest classroom environment is at the Argenziano. Next, we're going to be looking at the last goal.
I'm a little shorter. Thanks, Ms. Candelora. Thank you for inviting me to speak about our family and community engagement goals. As Ms. Candelora said, students and families are mostly happy at the Argenziano, so when we went to analyze the the conditions for learning survey, we found a lot of good news, but I'm here to tell you what we want to work on in our goals. As you can see, there were a couple areas mostly responded by the families don't know always what they can do to support their child's learning and opportunities to participate. So those were the lowest scores on the conditions for learning survey. One step we took already this year is alluded to in this goal, which is teachers now send home monthly newsletters about what their students are learning in every subject. If you go to the next slide, I think that's on it. Yep. I'll say, as the parent of a first grader at the Argenziano, that's something I very much appreciated, because the young ones, what are you learning in school? I don't know. Isaiah had a cheese stick today. And then coming up, building on successes of some of the awesome teachers at the Argenziano who already involve parents in the classroom. Huge shout out if you know the kindergarten teacher, Ms. Juvalakis. She has parents in all the time, and we thought as a school improvement committee, we'd love to build on the work that many teachers are already doing, and in the coming school year, in next 2 school years from now, find ways for teachers to invite more parents into the room so they feel as though they're part of the school community. We also this year with the PTA instituted a room parent program, and in its pilot year, we've seen some teachers leveraging that, but we want to make the program stronger and make sure every room has a room parent so that we can have parents more involved in it. Our goal, our outcome will be increasing the percentage of parents responding always or usually to those same questions on the conditions for learning survey when it's re-administered at the end of every year. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to close it up with the acknowledgements. First and foremost, I want to acknowledge all the work that our staff is doing on a day-to-day basis, and then my gratitude to the school committee, because we present every year and we ask for things, and the fact that we are making such progress in our accountability data it speaks to the things that you have been giving to our school community, and that have helped our students in creating a safe learning environment where they can thrive. So I have to acknowledge that. Over the years that I've been a principal at the Argenciano School, I'm more than grateful of the things the committee has done to help us get where we are. And then I want to, as you all probably know, we're building a new 5th grade classroom. So I want to thank the Joint School Building Committee for, advocating for that. And I definitely want to thank the mayor's office for making it happen so quickly. If you go by Argenciano, you can see on the floor already where the classroom will be. We have met several times already with the team, and we already seen what the classroom is going to look like, so we're really excited about it, and we're moving right along. And if it had not been for the mayor and her team's work, we would not be here today, so I wanted to acknowledge that as well. So thank you so much. Any questions?
Okay, thank you so much. And I'm sure there will be questions. Dr. Phillips?
Thanks, through you, Chair. I don't have any questions, but as a proud Argenciano parent, I am so proud of all the progress you have made over the past year. It is incredible, and I have at least one 3rd grader at home who's going to be super psyched about the focus on math, and I am very psyched about your focus on self-management. So thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Manuel?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. I was looking at slide 8 again, the wellness and joy goals.
Yep.
I'm sort of curious, the second bullet point, the discrepancy between the 32% of staff members that agree that students usually stay calm and manage their emotions, but 83% of students say that they're doing that. Like, can you explain that discrepancy?
So we looked at that as well, and the only thing we can think of is that students are judging themselves while the teachers are looking at the whole class, right? So it's about right, like most students can control their emotions, but the teachers are considering every student in the classroom. So the student is answering and speaking on the survey for themselves, not for the rest of the class. That's what we thought and discussed, yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Thank you. I was looking at, well, as always, thank you, but I'm going to ask, I hope I earned the capital to ask this question. Given the nationwide assault on the idea of equity and the idea that we should actually care about things like racial performance gaps, what would you say to the parent who sees this plan and goes, oh, you're looking at Latino students who are below grade level. What about my non-Latino below grade level student? What are you doing for me?
Whatever we do for Hispanic and Latino students works for all students. The same when we're providing supports and interventions to the whole class because of Hispanic students or because of multilingual learners or special ed students, all of those strategies and interventions work for all our students and benefit all of them. So that's what I would reply to the parent.
Mr. Buchanan?
Thank you, Chair, through you. Principal, thank you. First of all, I'm so happy to hear that things feel like they're working and the investments are seeing dividends. I don't invest really, so I hope I said that right. I also just wanted to shout out the initiative on the room parent program. I think that is, yeah, I was looking for you back there. That is something that has been wonderful, and having served as a room parent myself at the West, I think is a great way for parents to get involved and for the parent community to connect strongly with the educator community, and how important that is to make a school feel like part of a community. Just really liked that call out. My question is not related to any of those things. My question is, I loved seeing the quantitative measures for your next several years that you are mapping out. If you find in years 1 and 2 that you're not quite, moving moving toward them, do you have ideas ready to go for kind of intervention? Or what is your process for assessing, what strategies to employ?
So in the work of the school improvement plan, we have to assess our goals every year, and I will do that along with the school council and the instructional leadership team. We always look at our data at the beginning of the year, and then we do a root cause analysis of, these were the things we implemented and whether they had a positive effect or not. So we would have to do a root cause analysis to see if the strategies that we implemented had positive outcomes, or then trying to find which strategy did not work and trying to hone in on that. And to your point, I wanted to just mention the parent rooms effort is totally led by our Parent-Teacher Association, which I did not mention and I should have. We have a great partnership with the PTA, and they have been the leaders on this process, and we have amazing work with them, so that's totally on them. Yeah, they have been the ones developing that. Yeah. Thank you so much for your question.
Ms. Buteau?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you. Everyone has said all the positive outcomes that you've had. I'm curious, and this might be more of a question to the administration. My kid went to a school at the time that was very heavy into parent involvement. So I would volunteer every week for years, where I would come in and support the classroom, doing reading conferences. The parents would come and do presentations. How much, or are there opportunities for educators to learn about ways to engage parents beyond having a presentation about what they did in class, and how they can be a resource to educators? And is that something that's in the scope of our professional development?
Thank you for the question, through the chair. So I'm happy to answer from a district perspective, and then if there's anything, Principal Soto, to include, please do. So yes, simply stated, yes. We have professional development led by the SFLC. I have to pull up the catalog to see what's in there in this very moment. But yes, we've had members of the SFLC lead PD and partner. We have amazing family liaisons also who partner. Their family liaisons are also members of the SEU, and so they kind of can partner in many ways with educators to kind of hear best practices in the ways of uplifting and connecting with families in our family communities. The other thing I'll say is that there are very explicit namings of family and community partnership in the strategic plan, so it's definitely a priority of our district. Everything from the way in which we've elevated the way in which we partner with the SFLC on the executive team level, down to kind of in all of our principal meetings, we're able to bring in SFLC members when Ruth Santos, for example, is available. So that's like as a district perspective where we are. I don't know, Principal Soto, if there's anything you want to speak to specifically.
Yep, through the chair, I can add, on our the action steps for the family, community, and engagement, one of our action steps is to create and provide workshops for parents for mathematics and literacy. And we have started doing some of that regarding our social emotional learning, and even explaining to parents how different, for example, is the educational system in the United States from the countries that they come from. So that's part of the action steps in the next 3 years, to develop workshops specifically for math and literacy, that the parents can understand what they can do with their child at home. Math is very different. If you haven't been in an IM classroom, you have to go and you have to watch it, how different it is from how we learned math. So some parents don't know how to help their children. So we're working in partnership with different teachers in the building that are interested in providing those workshops to put them in place for next school year.
And I just have a follow-up. It's probably more for you. In regards to Laura's question, I know in the last few years we made the part-time volunteer coordinator a full-time position, and I'm just curious if there might be data, and volunteer is a little more than just parents, but it had me thinking about it, that it might be nice to see a presentation at some point about volunteers, what they're doing, and how that connects to making sure teachers know that it's a resource and know how to use it effectively if they so choose to, and all of that.
Through you, Chair. Jennifer Capuano does an amazing job making sure she connects us with volunteers. Like today, I was playing secretary because my secretary was out, and I don't know, 3, 4, 5 volunteers came to the building today to different classrooms. So whenever there is a volunteer, Jen makes sure to reach out and let us know, and also Marianne Berkowitz, our volunteer coordinator. And if we need a volunteer, we know to reach to them, and they'll right away try to match our students. Like recently, they matched a Portuguese-speaking student with a math background to 4th graders who needed math review of foundational skills in Portuguese. So it is a very active program, and we use it all the time.
Thank you. Through the chair, thank you. I was going to say, I'm sure we can get a very detailed report very quickly. Jennifer Capuano has I know last year there was a quick question and she was able to provide like robust information immediately. So I'm happy to connect with her and if that feels helpful. The other thing that Principal Soto reminded me of in light of this question is, as I'm thinking through the PD catalog, and I almost opened it, but I can just kind of recall, there are many educators also who, we're talking about how maybe teachers can learn around best practices around family engagement. And there are many educators who lead some of the teachers who lead the very PDs that we're describing around, cultures from around the world. Particularly, I'm thinking about Brazilian culture, and we have, PD led in Portuguese, and just a lot of really, best practice shares from educators doing really amazing work as well. So just wanted to highlight that because you reminded me. The final thing that I'll think about, and I think about this as we think about early adopters for illustrative mathematics. I attended the IM unit preview facilitated by Lesley University, and it was last week at some point at Winter Hill. Yes, last week at some point. And the educators were talking through the differences in approaches for, not teaching the standard algorithm in 1st grade, and what does that mean? What does it actually mean when we're adding 10s and 1s versus just add down the column? And they were, in that moment, brainstorming ways in which they're planning on leading and partnering with the family and caregiver community to share how these things may be different from the way that they've learned it themselves. So those were just examples you named, but I saw them in action. I just wanted to underscore.
Great, thank you. Ms. Patel?
Thank you, through you. Thank you for all that feedback. Just a quick follow-up and then a separate question. I think one of the things that I observed as a parent was during the pandemic, there was a lot of shutting the doors. And families were told, for good reason, drop your kid up here across the threshold and do not come in. And I know there should be lots of rules and regulations of how we allow families to come in and how do we allow them to support. I just hope we're moving back in that direction where families feel part of the school. They feel, with permission, access to their kids' classroom, and they can be part of that, because I think it was really challenging for a lot of families to have that wall put up. So that's just a side note. My other question, and again, this might be for administration, not for you, but you could respond, is about so much when I see these first of all, thank you for our district is so good about being upfront and honest about the hard things that where we're not meeting kids' needs, and I always want to comment on that and acknowledge how important that is, because we cannot do this work as a district if we're not upfront and honest about it. But also, for example, the disconnect between the performance of white students and our Hispanic students. So much I continually hear is that the only way to really close that gap is to use out-of-school time. And, obviously we're spending time during the day and we're using our XBlock to do that, but that when there is this big gap, we have to utilize time outside the, the 8:30 to 2:35. So I'm curious, and you probably can't answer this right now, but, we had programs which I know were not performing. It's like Breakthrough was not performing the way we had expected, but we dismantled those programs, and those were put in place to try to address the achievement gap. And that was maybe a year ago, and there was talk about the district developing their own type of programming, and then I haven't heard anything about that. So this is something I guess I just want to put back on the table to say, hey, what are we going to do differently to create the supportive programming? Because, we have amazing educators, we have amazing administrators. These gaps are persistent. I know we're not going to solve them all because some of them are just part of our lives where we live, and the challenges that we all struggle with. But I do want to see, what our plans are to use that time outside the classroom time to support students.
Thank you for asking the question. And yes, we know that in order for us to provide more access to students, and I actually don't like to talk about the achievement gap as a gap. I think sometimes folks call it as an opportunity gap, and but I still think that the kind of the gap where is a deficit because uses another group to compare as a gap, and I think that there is other terminology that is friendlier to the learners. A couple of things. One is we are looking at the out-of-school time in collaboration with our city partners. We actually, in order to overhaul that system, there are more pieces to it. And so we have the out-of-school time that is doing a very good work for what it was designed, but we still need a larger system to actually connect the day with the after school. So we're working. There is a guiding team that is working on that. I'm also partnering with different nonprofits around that. It's going to take quite some time, but we will be looking at the issue of access across the board. So that's a larger conversation, but it is not necessarily the out-of-school time that is going to address the issue of making sure that every student has access, but we just also embark on a new math program, new literacy program. All those pieces also will reinforce the students' ability to progress at a faster pace. So I think it's a larger issue. And also, we know that correlation between socioeconomics and outcomes is one that is one that still needs to be addressed. And part of that is because access to replicating the curriculum at home is one of those issues that we see. And just the last thing I wanted to say, we still are using the cultural responsive framework to understand and to see the connections with families as an integral part of the work that we do. So those partnerships that we aim to develop are still part of the work that we're doing as a community. And that's a never-ending thing, but our office has made it very clear that family engagement is a priority for us, is part of our strategic plan, and I welcome every parent to also continue to engage with our office if there's any issues that are actually not allowing their kids to make the growth or the progress that is needed.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Ms. Soto? All right. Seeing none? Oh, yes, please.
One huge shout out to our school council members who are here today representing the team. Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you all for your attention.
Thank you. All right. Are we welcoming up Kennedy now?
Yes, with that. So thank you, Argenciano community, and welcome, Kennedy community.
Thank you to Crystal for getting this all going. We spent a lot of time together. Thank you for having us tonight. In terms of going over our goals, we're going to get started right away. I just wanted to start out a little bit with our core values and things that are important to us at the Kennedy. The next slide shows us our Tiger habits, which is something we live by and we use every day with our students. It's a way we can frame conversations. They're teamwork, integrity, growth mindset, empathy, and respect. We're able to weave those into really every conversation. Anytime a student needs to meet with us for something that's challenging for them, we refer to them as a way to frame things and keep things consistent in the building. And I think that's important for our students, that we have a common language throughout the building. Next slide. So you can see our mission and our values, and then our values and our core values. Our core values have stayed the same for quite a while. Their impact, innovation, and relationships. The nice thing about that is that we're able to keep that consistent with anything that's going on with us. One of the most important ones to us is relationships. They're the foundation of everything that we do. The stronger we build our relationships with our students, with our community, we're able to move our students, have them trust us, know that we have their best interest. So that's something that is important. And then the innovation. New curriculum brings innovation. Just the things that the teachers want to bring into the school bring innovation, whether it's our catapults, our science teacher does an unplugged arcade, just really getting kids to think for themselves and figure out how they can solve problems and work through situations that are confronting them. And then impact. We're always looking to have impact. The common theme throughout our goals really is about academic excellence, even though that's the first goal. So you can go to the next slide. Our first goal is basically serves as a reminder that all teachers need to possess the unique ability to adapt their teaching methods and approaches to meet the diverse needs of every student. This helps to ensure every student receives the support and guidance necessary for their learning. This also highlights the essential qualities of understanding, patience, and creativity that all educators need to foster the inclusive learning environment for all our students. So you can see, I can't see because I don't have my glasses on, but go to the next slide. You can see in some of our action steps, we're looking to incorporate some of incorporate some of the best practices and getting all students to be able to participate. Some of the things we're working on is group work. We had someone come in, one of the coaches come in and talk about how we can improve our group work and increase our group work. So that's important for our students to be able to work together, problem solve, and one of our focus areas is on students with IEPs, students with disabilities. Our data shows that our students on IEPs are not meeting and exceeding in a way that we think is that they could. We have a lot of work to do around that. The next goal is also going to talk about some of that, but we're always looking to see what best practices we can put in place and provide the professional development for our teachers to help equip them to do this work. The next goal is equity and access. This goal represents the needs of our specialized programming. This is a huge part of our community, our life skills and our SEEK program. We've been working very hard in the last 2 years to really beef up our SEEK program, make sure we have the right people in place. We have new teachers this year. We've had a lot of turnover. It comes with the territory of some of the specialized programming. It's challenging work, but once we get the right people in place, we want to give them the professional development that will support their efforts with our students. The data shows that our MCAS and our iReady, none of our students met or exceeded, and none of our students were at grade level or above grade level. So it's concerning to me that that's the data, but the positive thing is we want to put into things in place to support our teachers, who therefore can provide support for our students. If you dive deeper into some of the reasoning behind that, what we think is there's a lot around confidence and stamina. So those are two areas that we're focusing on with our teachers. How do you build confidence in students who typically have struggled to achieve, whether it's behaviors that get in the way or the lack of opportunity? Stamina is also, if you look at the time they've taken on an assessment, sometimes it's really short. Like in iReady, you get a red flag that shows that you have to go back and kind of redo the test. You went too fast. And we're trying to help improve our students' stamina on taking these tests. So more assessments and test-taking skills, not just to take a test, but also to provide that confidence that says, I can do this. Even if I don't get all the answers right, I still can do this, and I can learn, and I can get better. The growth mindset piece comes in. Next slide. So our action steps around this is, again, to provide professional development to our teachers, working with our consultant. We work with the Triumph Center, and they consult with our teachers on best practices in behavior management, also in providing students opportunities to be included in their gen ed classrooms. We've had quite an increase this year, just recently, of some of our students going to science class, going to ELA, which is really exciting because that provides them the opportunity to be with their peers, and that often has an effect on behavior, but also shows them that they're able to be an active participant in the classroom. Next slide. Wellness and joy. So, again, like Glenda had said, we're building capacity for our teachers to do our SEL work and our restorative justice work. The more experienced they are with conflict resolution, helping students self-regulate, and giving students that emotional resilience helps them to approach classroom strategies for them to stay focused on their work, but also give them opportunity to be part of a community in a successful, positive way. Next slide. So again, looking at our best practices, looking at how we support our staff, providing them with professional development continuously around SEL work, our second step, utilizing the opportunities for restorative justice practices. We've seen a lot of students this year, a lot of staff this year, participate in restorative justice circles. Ms. Patton also supports classrooms in that effort. She goes around to different classrooms and helps teachers who haven't done them specifically in the morning get started for like a morning meeting. And we've seen that build community within the classroom and also help students feel like they have a voice and a place to be supported. The next is family and community engagement. So one of the things that I noticed, and one of the things that came out of the School Improvement Council was, similar to Glenda, is that parents want to know, parents and family caregivers want to know what the new curriculum's about. So we've been talking about how we can implement training sessions at night, kind of going over what we're doing. We're gonna, one of our goals is to plan to do at least 2 next year in both subjects, ELA and math. And really, the school council indicated that there's many families out there who really are interested. We've done it before in the past, but it's been quite a while. We did a math night with families before, but to bring that back, especially as we have the new curriculum, and looking at what parents are interested in and being involved, we have a small school council, very small school council, but they have a wide reach to a lot of people in our community. And I think that's important, that the idea is to get as many people involved, getting people who don't typically get involved to come in and see what their students are doing, see how they're learning, see the new math, see the new ELA, and how can they support their students at home. I think home engagement shows possibility for increased academic success. Yeah.
And this speaks to something Laura Patone asked earlier, that there is a lot of family engagement already at the Kennedy between book groups every Wednesday, where parents are helping to facilitate that, to parents schlepping up giant pieces of wood to the 3rd floor to support with building a catapult, to guest readers in the classroom in our younger grades, to parent volunteers during our literacy centers. So there's a lot of that work happening. I think sometimes it's hard when we're not capturing it in specific spaces, but I want to acknowledge that there's a lot of families always in our school, as I'm sure Crystal can attest to, being at the front desk. So I wanted to acknowledge that and share a little bit to answer your question from earlier.
One of the other things we talked about, just going backwards a little bit, is the idea of reducing our office referrals. It's really important to us that we are able to be instructional leaders, and the more that we can have students in classrooms, in their seats, learning, and less coming to us, see us for something that went on in the classroom. This year, the Student Services kind of created a spreadsheet for, not a spreadsheet, but sort of like the classroom handles this behavior, the classroom handles this situation, administration should handle this situation. It's been a good guideline for us to help support teachers in where do I support the student in the classroom so that they can see me as a safe space, they can see me as someone who can keep them safe and support them during a difficult time. Obviously, we're available to support students at any time when there's a need, but we're looking at how can we decrease the out of classroom time. The more things can be handled in the classroom, the stronger the relationships can be built, and also it gives us opportunity to get into classrooms and see the work that's being done and how we can support our teachers. Anything else you want to?
Just to add on to that, I think when we're looking at all these pieces together, they're all intertwined so deeply, right? When we're looking at office referrals, then we think about the second step and the restorative justice work that we're doing and how that supports that, and how that all of these different practices are increasing like equity and access. So all of these things are woven throughout every goal. So I want to acknowledge that as well.
And one of the reasons why our goals were designed this way was really about academic excellence for everybody. And I think what's important for us is when we think about our students in our specialized programming, those students, again, as I was talking about earlier, those students can sometimes feel like they're not part of the community. And what's super important for us as a school is that they are. And all the different things that we're able to do within the classrooms. I'm sort of going off a little bit, but one of the things that really struck me over the last 2 years is when I see some of my 8th graders go into our life skills classes, our SEEK program, and mentor students, younger students, and they're learning about those students' needs themselves, and some of them are discovering that, hey, I really like doing this. This is something I could do as a career. But I watch them work with some of our life skills students or our SEEK students, and just the compassion and empathy that they have, emphasizes our tiger habits, emphasizes what our values are, but really shows how a community can be built. And so, again, the whole point behind academic excellence is your entry point as a student isn't going to be the same as everybody else's. And where where you access the curriculum, where you show your best work, it's not always going to look like everybody else's. And when you look at the MCAS data, and you look at the iReady data, it does show, as I said, 0% of our students in those programs were at or above grade level. But some of them are so close to meeting, and we want to be able to move them forward. And those students who aren't as close, we want to figure out what are those practices that we need to do to get them there. What are those things? And one of the things that I mentioned in my final acknowledgments was basically just the idea that I'm hoping that I'm able to change my goals before the 3 years are up. I want to be able to say, hey, we reached that goal. Let's look at something different. Because there's so many good things going on at the Kennedy. There's so many good data points in terms of our assessments. We have a lot of positive things to talk about too. But I want to make sure that we don't forget that our students who aren't quite there yet have that opportunity. And as we make our teachers stronger, we're providing that also for our students. Thank you again for your time. Thank you to the school committee, the mayor. Thank you to the central office, the superintendent. Thank you to Crystal for every day being with us during the day. But I just thank you for this opportunity. I really want to thank the school community. The students are really the key thing that drives us every day. And, you know, people always joke that I'm never in my office, but I love that because I'm able to get out and see what the kids are doing. So thank you for this time, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you so much. And then I'm sure we'll have questions. I believe Mr. Green was first. Mr. Green?
As always, thank you. So I have a comment and a question. The comment is, I think, probably to the district. This is now our fourth school improvement plan. Wow, I forgot the name of that. And what I'm seeing in all of them, and I think actually yours is a really good and clear example of this, is a real focus on clear, concrete, actionable goals. And so I really appreciate that. And I think it speaks to a lot of thought at the school level, lots of thought at the district level about how do we actually look different a year from now, which I think we oftentimes in public schools know that things take a time, and so we don't so much think about, oh, a year is still a year of a kid's life. So I really appreciate that. And for y'all, my particular question is about your Wellness and Joy goal. First of all, thank you for stating one of the things that everyone knows, I think we sometimes forget, which is that disproportionate discipline is a way in which we disproportionately lose learning time for vulnerable students. And so, like, I appreciate you understanding that that is central to lowering achieving gaps or opportunity gaps, or I hate achieving gaps too, because it blames the student for it is not their fault. My question, however, is, like, we know that, I appreciate obviously that data for this year, but what I don't really understand is how does that compare, like, where are we relative to where this community has been? In particular, I know that lots of schools, Somerville and nationwide, saw a spike in behavior issues, discipline issues, whatever you want to call it, right after we came back from COVID. And now as we look back at 5 years this week since we had to go remote, I assume we saw that as well. I know we saw it at the high school. Where are you relative to where you say it may have been before COVID?
So when I started out as an assistant principal, we had, I think it was 85 suspensions the year prior to, and one of our goals at that time was to reduce suspensions, and we did. We reduced it to 7 at that time. At that time, we didn't necessarily use what they call an emergency removal, which is also a suspension, but it's classified as an emergency removal, which is really an investigatory time frame where we can do an investigation on what took place, and then we make a decision. But in relation to, and answering your question, one of the things that I've noticed is that emergency removals, once they became something, increased because it was a way to have a child, if they needed to be emergency removed because it was unsafe for them to stay in the school or whatever. And then we still saw a low number of actual suspensions, but that's sort of based upon the fact that, like, okay, I'm not going to suspend because we had the emergency removal. This is, but they still weren't accessing curriculum. So again, part of my goal is to decrease emergency removals as well, but that takes the work of what am I going to do instead? How am I going to support that student instead? But I have seen, and in terms of the pandemic, in our school, a majority of our suspensions do come from one of our specialized programs, SEEK. But I did see a lot of, sort of decline in like social skills and different things like that. So we saw a lot of that, but they didn't rise to a level of maybe behaviors that got students out of class. It was just sort of an overall cultural shift or cultural feel, and so that was something that we have to keep working at. But I think, you know, definitely we've seen an increase from the 7 that we had before the pandemic, but we're still working to keep those numbers low. And, you know, one of the things that's interesting is, you know, I get feedback sometimes where we're not tough on, you know, discipline, we're not tough enough or different things like that. You know, sometimes we get that feedback. But I stand by my values of, some of it's an educational thing, some of it you need to learn how to work within a system. You have to learn how to socially work together. And so suspending a student or, you know, doing different things that don't change a student's behavior don't make sense to me. So really my focus is, how do I change that person's behavior? Ties into restorative justice. What's your impact on the community, right? So that's where I focus. That's where I put my focus. And Sam and I have talked a lot about that, and we're on the same page, which is great. And we work together to really help our students understand why what they did wasn't okay, or, you know, but it's still a work in progress. It's still getting people to understand that philosophy too. You know, sometimes it's teachers that feel like they should be stronger discipline action, and sometimes it's families that think, you know, this should happen to this student. You know, it's like, so I don't know if that answered your question, but
it did, and I want to also thank you. You know, I have been working in and around education policy now for 20 years. That may have been the most honest and frank conversation about discipline I've heard a principal give, and so that gives it's someone's point about doing hard things. I found that one of the hardest things for principals to talk about is the reality of how discipline works in their schools for really good reasons. And so I appreciate that frankness, and it gives me real hope for, you know, what's going to happen coming from the Kennedy going forward, that you're thinking about it so deeply. So thank you.
All right, I will open it up to more questions. Ms. Patone?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you. Super helpful. Really appreciate these presentations. I had a question, again, probably for the central office. I'm excited to hear that the different schools want to educate families about the new math curriculum, what we're doing in English. I'm sure, but I'm just flagging this, I'm sure you guys are already doing this, that I would hope that those efforts are collaborative. I wouldn't want administrators or educators in one school developing a program and then administrators and educators in another school developing the same kind of thing. I hope that this is either, I'm sure illustrative math has some resources, so I hope that that's all coming together, and maybe the SFLC, I don't know, but I hope that that's all gonna be collaborative, because I'd hate to have that extra work from different schools.
Can I just say one thing about that too? I know Paula O'Sullivan is actually leading some trainings as well for parents in, you know, sessions that will help support them understanding that. It's something that I want to continue, because I think, you know, that sometimes you do need to focus on your community, because you understand your community and their needs, and they do vary. But I agree, I think as a district, I think it would be beneficial to have the curriculum as it's rolled out, and as we keep going with it, just the more information we can provide to families and supporting them in supporting their own students, I think that just leads to a higher level of achievement, I think, you know, and really reaching everybody. And I think one of the things about that goes back to what I was talking about. How do we give everybody access to that? How do we make sure everyone has that ability to have academic excellence in their lives and really feel that? And I think being creative in those ways, reaching our sub-separate programs who honestly often rely on transportation and different things like that. And I think that's the piece that I want to address, is how do we reach those families that don't always have the access?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question received. I think it's an excellent point. So I was going to mention exactly what Principal Marshall mentioned, which is that we do have some district-wide events coming up. I actually, as this conversation was happening with both, I pulled up the dates just in case it came up. So hot off the press, but this was shared with the SFLC, shared it with some liaisons and an email, and I was CC'd on that email. So it will be announced in a district newsletter as well, and I'm sure we'll announce it here in our school committee meetings as well. But we do have 3, specifically around math, for example, I have in front of me illustrative mathematics sessions coming up. We have Thursday, March 27th, from 5:30 to 7:30 at the East Somerville Community School. Childcare and pizza will be provided. Advanced registration is encouraged. We have another one on Friday, March 28th from 8 to 9 a.m. at the Kennedy School. There's no childcare provided and no registration necessary. And then we also have one on Zoom Thursday, April 10th from 7 to 7:45 p.m. Those will be more widely shared. So this was not intended to be the main source of communication, but since it came up, I thought, why not take the opportunity? Similarly, Kathleen Seward actually has been going, which is part of the curriculum development cycles that the committee approved a few years ago, was planned. She's been going to each school site council meeting and sharing a little bit about the K through 5 ELA curriculum selection process. That being said, I think the point is a really good one, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about as I think about my academic priorities for next school year, and that I think tying it also back to the AFA school improvement plan. I think it's wonderful, and as a parent myself to three kids, I love when I get the newsletters from my children's teachers with kind of what the focus is. We could do a better job at the district end of providing some of that information so people don't have to kind of formulate it themselves, or they can kind of take it from the district level and then cater it to their own school or classroom community. So that is definitely something, especially as we're rolling out a lot of curriculum, that I am thinking about and will be a priority for next year. I actually reminded myself, I wrote it down and boxed it on my book. So it's great feedback, it's well received. We are doing some things and we can do kind of a better job to support our schools, but I really love that it's already happening.
As a follow-up to that, and I appreciate that, as an okay parent, I oftentimes find that I get so many things from the district and the schools that it's not necessarily sure I know where to look to find a particular thing if I'm not on top of every newsletter and scoring everything. So as we're thinking about that, can we also think about ways in which we can make it clearer to parents who may join me in okayness and knowing where to find things?
Thank you. Received as well. And I totally also had firsthand experience of a pile of papers and kind of figuring out what to put on my calendar. I think we can, part of the reason why I think it's a great idea if Central better supports our schools is that we can kind of streamline information a little bit. Also, one tool, so the feedback is received and appreciated. That said, there's one tool that I think is really great is our the calendar, not the approved kind of PDF that we send, but the live calendar that is available on the SPS website. You can download it to your phone. And it has like concerts. It has so it's kind of in one place. So if you're curious about district-sponsored events, so it may or may not have all of the school events. It would be up to the school community to make sure they share that. But it has like the PTA conferences, it has concerts, it has any other big district-sponsored events in one place that's alive. And if you're somebody who likes to just kind of merge it to your phone calendar, it could be there too. So that's a tip. And like as I just mentioned, I think the feedback is well received. Thank you.
Mr. Bitone, and then Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Chair, through you. And just segueing off that point around communication with families, and I'll use an I statement here. For me and my family, I think, understanding the events that are happening at school and what is happening, regarding a social event or the PTA, the PTA events or the, when the parent-teacher conferences are and all that is one thing. And then there's the regular communications from teachers from the classroom around what academics are happening and how we as parents can help support that are two completely different things. And I find, you know, because I don't get a lot of information from my kids. I don't know if anyone else here has had that experience. It's hard to get, you know, what did you do in social studies today? What did you do in math? I don't know. I left math. So, you know, I think refining and enhancing those communication pathways can, what is, I think, goal 4 or whatever the, you know, the parent communication can actually help amplify our goal 1 and get our academic focus better, so we engage more family members into, you know, into the children's education. So I found a soapbox and I stepped onto it, so thank you.
Dr. Phillips.
Thanks, through you, Chair. I think this is probably a question for the district, but feel free to answer if you want. It's been a couple years since I have lived fully in the world of SEL, but when I did, I was really struck by the research that says it's really hard for teachers to improve kids' SEL skills when they're struggling with their own SEL skills as well. And I'm just wondering, as a district, I know we do some work on self-care and wellness, but I'm wondering what we're doing to help our teams assess their own SEL skills and strengthen their SEL skills so that they can then pass it on to our students.
If I can answer one part of that anyway. I think one of the things that is important to us as a community is the fact that we are a community. And so one of the things, even though it's not minor, but it's a piece of a bigger puzzle, is just how we care about each other in the building. I think one of the things is that we all understand that we all have lives, we all have, you know, things that we have to attend to. We have emergencies, some of us have children, and these things. And for me, it's critical that I acknowledge the needs of our staff as much as at least, so that they can do their best work, so that things aren't hanging over their heads that they can't attend to. Obviously we're looking, we want to be mindful of any trends or anything like that, but or just making sure our teachers are there for our students is our primary thing. But acknowledging the fact that we are a community and we have to support each other. And when things get tough, I've said this in different settings, but when things get tough, one of the things I love about the school is that we rally around each other and we problem solve. It's not just Sam and myself trying to figure out how to solve this problem. Even our instructional leadership team, our school council, our PTA, all those pieces do that one part, at least, of supporting our staff in their social emotional well-being. We're not living in isolation, and I love that. I love that about our school. I'm sure it's like that in other schools too. This is where I'm at. But I focus heavily on that community aspect. Again, it's one piece, but I appreciate that question.
Also speak to that.
If I may, just we have invested significantly on the SEL infrastructure. We actually have SEL specialists in every building. We also are partnering with Boston Children's Hospital on a project around role clarity to make sure that we support not only the students, but we support our staff as well. And the overall framework of well-being in our district is also a priority. So I think that we are still, that priority, that lane as far as like identifying what are the metrics under which we're gonna measure success is still being developed. But I just wanted to highlight the fact that we are investing on that significantly. That's a new added to the budget that was last year. And so I think that we continue to prioritize that work, and we will definitely be looking at the outcomes of the work that we're doing right now.
Okay. Are there more questions? Madam Mayor?
I think my question is more for the district. As we're reviewing these school improvement plans, does the district do a longitudinal study so we can track changes or developments over time.
Yeah, so we have a new dashboard. Something that we didn't have before. We didn't have a strategic plan, something we have now. So that's the intent, is to make sure that we have a place where we actually can track our data across the board. And so we can track our data from the different metric systems that we have, like MCAS, like, and although the iReady is a new tool, but our design through the portal is to actually identify ways in which we can actually track our performance along the lines of the goals that we're setting up right now.
And also, if I can say...
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Over time, so we can see last year to this year to going forward. So that's going to be on the dashboard?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
I was just going to say that it also tracks like behavior and attendance and all those things that contribute to academic success as well. And it would be, it would show us, past and then projected future. Like, we're always looking at students who struggle with attendance, for example. We're always looking at their past attendance and then helping parents understand, for example, your student's been out this many days, this is how many hours of school they've actually missed, and it's kind of showing that impact. And it's been really beneficial for parents to say, oh, I didn't even recognize that.
If there are no further questions, we will thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there more to your district report?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, that brings us to some reports of subcommittees. I believe we have a rules and finance, but we're tabling the school building one. So I will entertain a motion to accept the rules and finance subcommittee reports.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Dr. Phillips. If there is no discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to February bill rolls. I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the February bill rolls.
Motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Dr. Phillips. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to a motion to authorize me to sign the UAW Community School MOU.
I move to authorize the chair to sign the UAW Community School MOU.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Ms. Patone. All in favor? All opposed? Yes.
I just wanted to say, for the people who aren't aware, we discussed these things in executive session. So we had in fact had a conversation about this before we voted on it.
Thank you for reminding the public of that. So all in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. We have some field trips to approve.
I move to approve a field trip from April 2nd to April 5th for 26 students from the SHS robotics team who will travel to Springfield, Massachusetts to participate in the Big E robotic competition. Travel via school bus, no cost to students.
I have a motion by Ms. Patone, seconded by Ms. Barish, seconded by Mr. Bitone. If there is no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Let's go, robot. That brings us to some diplomas.
I move to approve Somerville High School diplomas for Jose Furman Fuentes, Husseline Julianne, Patricia Quintana de Leon, all of Somerville, Massachusetts.
I have a motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Ms. Barish. Mr. Green?
I just wanted to note that all three of these students are students who were able to get their diplomas because of the passage of question 2 last fall. So I wanted to point out that sometimes these things are abstract academic issues, but for these 3 students, this is a direct result of policy passed at the state in November, so yay.
Well, thank you for that clarification. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations to our newest graduates. And that brings us to a scale diploma.
I move to approve a FY25 scale diploma request for Danielle Alberto Perez Ramirez of Somerville, Massachusetts.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Phillips, seconded by Ms. Patone. If there is no discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations to Danielle. That brings us to some grants.
I move.
I move to accept all federal entitlement and continuation grants and all state continuation grants awarded to Somerville Public Schools as listed. Federal Special Education IEP implementation, $20,000. Title I grant, $240 is a grant increase. Title II grant, $1,501 is a grant increase. Private, Somerville Foundation author, $500, Brown School Library. And Somerville Arts Council author, $1,302, Brown School Library.
I have a motion by Mr. Green, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Mr. Green?
I hate to have to ask this question, but in the case of the federal grants, do we actually have the money? Which is a question that in the 250-year history of the Republic you never have to ask. But right now, the fact that the federal government is going to give us money doesn't mean, say they're going to give us money, doesn't mean they will. So do we actually have the money? And I can give the answer later because it's a ridiculous question I have to ask, but in the environment we have to ask it, but we have to ask it.
I think the answer at this moment is that we don't know.
I understand it's a ridiculous question, but if you can.
Okay. I have a motion to approve these grants. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to unfinished business, resolution in support of people with disabilities in Somerville Public Schools for a second reading. I know there were some edits, so I will let Mr. Bitone speak to that.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Mr. Green did provide some suggested revisions, and I am incredibly grateful for his efforts to improve the resolution. I think sometimes we don't get it right on the first time, so really grateful for your efforts. What, Chair, is best? Should I describe, or should maybe I can leave it to Mr.
I'll
Green?
let Mr. Green
Thank you.
speak to his changes.
As discussed in our last meeting, I thought it was important to think deeply about what concrete things we could do in response to the federal government's nonsense. And with that in mind, I proposed some changes, I thought, to the language of the second resolved item, namely to be more in fitting with the way we talk about other forms of equity in a justice lens, and making sure our curriculum, rather than backing away from the discussion of justice and structural oppressions and the history of the activists who brought us where we are, leaned into it. So that's the point of the changes to the second the second be resolved. And then I added 3 action items as 4, 5, and 6, namely 4, I'll just go ahead and read them, that we wholeheartedly reject any implication from the so-called Make America Healthy Again executive order that conditions such as autism and ADHD represent a, quote, threat to the American people and our way of life. 5, authorize the chair of the Somerville School Committee alongside the superintendent and director of special education to meet with the committee's legal counsel to develop strategies to assist national efforts in defense of federal special education law and the enforcement thereof. And 6, calls on the Massachusetts legislature and governor to codify special education rights in the state law and to compensate districts for any potential lost federal funding.
Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion, and then we can have further discussion. Oh, we can discuss
I'll
first
make
if you'd
the
like.
motion, but
Sure.
I also, to pass this resolution, but I also wanted, through the chair, to thank Mr. Green for taking the time, and besides also thanking Mr. Bitone, but he clearly put in time and effort to think about how we could be more effective and take action. So I'm thanking you both. Motion to pass the resolution.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Tone, seconded by Dr. Phillips. Mr. Bitone?
Thank you, Chair. Through you. I do have a question about the new 5th bullet that is authorizes the chair alongside the superintendent and the director of special ed to meet with legal counsel to develop strategies to assist national efforts in defense of the special ed law. My understanding, and this as an observer for years, just my understanding that I developed on my own was that resolutions were more statements of principle. And if you'll just let me finish the question.
Of course.
And then, actions might sort of take their basis from the stated principle. So I guess my question is this something that we could sort of break off maybe and pass as a separate motion, or is this sort of traditional to include in a resolution? So that's just my question.
Agree?
It's a good question. The challenge is that short of there being a lawsuit, there's no really good way to discuss legal strategies in executive session. And so this was a way of, you could say it's authorized maybe 2 cents, but it's a sense of body that, yeah, go ahead and have the conversations you can have as the chair that we can't yet have as a body because we have to have that in an open session, and that would be inappropriate. It is a weird situation, and it's a weird response, weird situation, and I think it's one of the places where there is no precedence. We're going to make up precedent whatever we do.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Patone, seconded by Dr. Phillips. If there is no further discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. That brings us to an MSBA update. Dr. Carmona, do we have any updates on the MSBA?
We don't. We continue to be on track on the feasibility part of the project, and I know the city is still hiring the project manager, and but we are still in that phase, which is until June 2026.
Are there any updates from the advisory group?
I was unfortunately unable to make the last meeting. I haven't had a chance to read the notes, but I will be meeting with Amara, who was there, so I should be able to get an update at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to items from committee members. Yes, Ms. Patone?
Thank you, through you, Chair. I just wanted to announce 2 events. This Thursday, the Somerville High School Ceramics Project is hosting what I think is just an incredible, thoughtful event. You can find it on Eventbrite. It's called SHS Empty Bowls Project. You donate money, you get to pick out a beautiful ceramic bowl made by one of the students in the ceramics program, and you get to eat soup that's been donated by, I think, restaurants in the area, and the money goes to the, I wrote it down, Greater Somerville Homeless Coalition Project Soup. So I encourage anyone who's interested to go on Eventbrite and sign up. It's from 5 to 7, and it's at the high school, and I think I'm so proud of the students to create this event.
And just quickly to add to that, after that is the first performance of the Shakespeare play, who's Much Ado. So you could have dinner and a theater at the same time.
SHS.
Yes.
I also was going to announce a second event. The Somerville High School Fundraising is having an event on March 22nd from 7 to 11 p.m. You can also find that on Eventbrite. Again, the title is Somerville High School Fundraising. They're hosting, I think it's a musician, comedian at the Dante Club. So if anybody wants to support the Somerville High School PTO organization, and I think a lot of that money tends to go to scholarships and other activities at the high school.
Thank you for that. Are there any other items from committee members? Mr. Green?
Yeah, I just want to give some congratulations. First to the coalition organizations, including SCU, some of educators for Sanctuary City and CAS for their successful rally on Sunday in support of our community. I was there, as was Chair Krepshin. I would estimate 300 or so people at its height, which for a blisterly, windy, cold day speaks to the values of this community. I also want to give a shout out to Padres Latina, who just celebrated their fourth birthday with a lovely celebration also this weekend, where Chair Krepshin, the mayor, Ms. Patone, myself, and Representative Barber were in attendance. I believe we were joined by Senator Jalen and Councilor Mba. If I forgot anyone else, I apologize. Well, again, if I missed anyone, I apologize. I had to leave early. But again, congratulations to Padres Latinas on a well-deserved celebration of their fourth birthday.
They had delicious food as well. With that, are there any other? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. This is more of a request. One of the roles of the school committee is policy development, and I am continually asked by constituents about, so what policies are in development? And so my ask is that on the SPS website, that we keep a little table that says these are the policies that are in the queue, you know, where it is in progress, and when we anticipate that it will be due. And what's been brought up to me, for example, was the homework policy from a few years back that parents didn't necessarily know about it, or schools didn't know about it. I don't remember all the detail, but it occurred to me, because on the city council side, we have a legislative software, which when I was council president was trying to figure out what kind of software the school committee could use that keeps track of what's in the queue. So people can just look it up, and constituents can just look it up online. And since the school committee is set up differently, I just wonder what you all think about just having a little table that gets updated continually, because I couldn't answer somebody's question when they asked me, so what policies is the school committee developing? As you know, and it's a step towards being transparent. Thank you.
Okay, noted. We will discuss it at a future time. With that, any other items from committee members? Seeing none, Dr. Phillips, do we have any condolences? All right, then with that, we are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.